But I just don't really trust Mike McCarthy at all. I would have loved for them to figure out a way to give a sweetheart, wink, wink, good buddy conversation to Sean Payton. Have Sean Payton come and coach the Cowboys. He has a house in Dallas. He's got roots, knows Jerry really well. But no, I do not feel like that they should be the third most we should be the third most optimistic fan base. I am so pessimistic. If you were to say, where's Trista at in this list? I'd be like, okay, Panthers, Texans, Titans, Patriots, Raiders, Buccaneers, Bears, Cardinals, Cowboys. That's where I would be. I'd be like the bottom 10.
I mean, at least you're thinking about playoffs, though. Like I feel like even the least optimistic Cowboys fan can at least sit there and go, the NFC's weak, and they're plus 650 to win the NFC. That's only behind the Eagles, plus 260. 49ers are 4-1, and then it's the Cowboys. So you got the third shortest odds to win the NFC. Not even feeling good about that, huh?
No, they can't beat the Niners.
Well, that's true. Yes, they can't beat them.
Have lost multiple. I mean, what is the point of a first? This is like the Yankees. What's the point of going to the playoffs when you are certain in your head you will lose because of something Mike McCarthy does wrong?
Here's the one thing I love about you is that you're an honest Cowboys fan. You're not one of those ones that sits there and goes into the season, this year is going to be different, it's going to be better. No, you're just like, look, you'll admit, which takes the fun out of it sometimes, me being a Commanders fan, even though it doesn't feel the same when we talk about Commanders-Cowboys, but whole other conversation. But, like, it's true. You can't have any optimism with Mike McCarthy. And what I actually don't understand, and you said it, Sean Payton. I thought Sean Payton was like ready to go to Dallas. If I don't understand why Jerry Jones decided to stay with Mike McCarthy after that disaster where poor Ezekiel Elliott, the last game he ever played in a Cowboys uniform, it's him getting pancaked all by himself on the offensive line trying to block on the final play of a game. That's the coach that you wanted to keep as opposed to Sean Payton. Oh, well, Trista, I just want to say that Mike McCarthy's actually done a really good job for us, and it was Zeke's time to go, and clearly we're just going to have to keep Mike around. He's creative, he's thinking differently, and his offense is going to be much better. We're going to run the football this year. Dak Prescott's going to win us a Super Bowl. You should be optimistic.
Well, and think about this. Remember Dak Prescott 2 years ago had like some naked boot type of a thing. It was like, 3rd and 8?
Mm-hmm.
And he's running. This is a running play for Dak.
Yep.
It's stuffed. That was the way that ended.
It's the last 2 years. Well, they also didn't even have, he wasn't even managing the clock. You didn't even know how much time was left. So the last 2 years have been some of the most embarrassing endings to a team season there. So I don't know. Maybe it's Tony Pollard. Maybe it's the fact that the NFC is wide open. But the Cowboys fan base, third most optimistic there is. Now, the next one actually does make sense to me. And it's the Lions at 17.5%. Fourth most optimistic fan base. Now, we know the Lions aren't winning the Super Bowl. They're 22-1 to win that. They're plus 850 to win the NFC. I don't think they're going to do that either. They have a chance to win the division. And for the first time in the history of Ford Field, that stadium is sold out. People are going to Lions games. Dan Campbell's likable. Guy wanted to have himself a lion on the sidelines, but the NFL wouldn't let him do it. I mean, he has endeared himself to this fan base and to this team. And he's wild. He's old school, and it's crazy. I mean, we thought the biting the kneecaps thing was nuts. I mean, the lion was an amazing idea, even if he was never going to do it. But, there's a difference between Cowboys and what the Cowboys were in the 90s, right? And what your fan base remembers, however old you are, doesn't matter. I mean, I don't really remember the last time the then Redskins won a Super Bowl. I was a really little kid and didn't really understand what the Super Bowl was, but I knew it existed. But the Cowboys in the 90s today, most people remember that. So the expectations are higher. If you're a Lions fan, this is the best it's been. I mean, there was a short period with Matt Stafford. I get it. They at least got to the playoffs, but this is as good as the expectations have been in a really, really long time. So for the Lions fan base to feel this way, yeah, they might win a division and get to the playoffs, and maybe they win a playoff game.
Have you ever been to Ford Field?
I have, actually, yes. I've been to Detroit a couple of times. Some of the best barbecue I've ever had in my life. I think people don't understand the barbecue scene in Detroit is amazing. Also, Ford Field's a pretty damn cool field.
I think Ford Field is one of the best football stadiums in the NFL. I loved it there. The way that the stadium's designed, the fan base, you can just tell. It's one thing when a stadium is sold out for a 12, 13, 14 win team. And or even an 8-win team that was a 14-win team last year, right? There's optimism. When you were a 3-win team and you show up in the middle of December and it's stuffed to the brim inside of there, that's impressive. That's a level of loyalty that's just unmatched. And those fans, they deserve every bit of success that's coming their way. The jerseys are cool. The stadium is cool. Detroit itself is very cool. I would be a Detroit Pistons and a Detroit Lions fan if I wasn't already spoken for.
You haven't had a chance to get to the tight ends, and I think the tight end position is really interesting in the NFL because it's not as flashy and it's not as polarizing. It's not as controversial as running backs. It's not the superstar that is quarterbacks, but it's a massively important position in today's NFL. And we've seen tight ends over the years get more and more evolved, right? They're not just big blockers. Obviously Tony Gonzalez is somebody you think about, and then you go to Antonio Gates and Jimmy Graham and Gronk, and we don't have a Gronk now in this league, but there's still some really elite tight ends that can go on and have monster seasons again this year. And if you think of the very top, it's Travis Kelce, it's Mark Andrews, and it's George Kittle. And those are three guys, one in Kelce, with all the different receivers spread out you got in Kansas City. That's Patrick Mahomes' go-to guy. Mark Andrews was the safety net and got a ton of targets before you added some receivers to that offense in Baltimore. I think he's going to have a really good year this year, too, just because now there's going to be more just eyeballs on some of the other weapons Baltimore has. And then George Kittle, with all of the different dynamic playmakers they've got with the 49ers, the one go-to that Brock Purdy will have is his tight end in George Kittle, and tight ends are always a safety net for young quarterbacks. Those, to me, are the three elite elite tight ends that we have in the NFL.
I'm very sad. I don't really know what to do. I've got multiple people texting me being like, so Oregon's in the Big Ten now? It's like, yes, it's official. We are a Big Ten school. I will never say we're in the Big Ten. I will never say it out loud like, oh yeah, I went to a Big Ten school. No, I went to a Pac-10 school, and I love the Pac-10. But let's be real, it was all on the writing was on the wall when the Pac-12 network came out, and nobody could ever get any games. They were never on TV. You had to have the Pac-12 network streaming package on your laptop, which I don't know who did that, but almost no one. I mean, you had Christian McCaffrey, who, he rushed for like 3,300 yards or something like that, and he couldn't win the Heisman because nobody even knew who the kid was. The only time that he was getting any attention was when he decided to sit out of the bowl game, and everybody's like, oh, Christian McCaffrey sat out of the bowl game. How dare him, clutching my pearls. And it's like this conference is trash based on the TV money. The ratings are terrible. Mostly because you can't get the games. The conference itself having a hard time getting recruits. Why? Because they're not on TV ever, right? So why would I want to play for this terrible conference? It's good. It's good for business. It's good for Oregon. It's good for USC. It's good for Washington. But I have a lot of question marks in terms of what this means for rivalry games, right? I grew up with the Civil War being huge. And now what do we do with that? The Apple Cup. I went to the Apple Cup one time, Washington versus Washington State. I actually saw some random Washington State kid throw a Washington fan's head through a car window, right before the Apple Cup. And you know what the police officer did when he walked by in Pullman, Washington? He said, had it coming. Get at it coming.
Oh, my God. I feel like there's a lot of different what-ifs with Kevin Durant over the years. Some of them also go back to Golden State. I mean, obviously the torn Achilles. That to me actually could be the ultimate what if you're looking at just Kevin Durant in general. That because they still could have beaten Toronto in those NBA finals if Klay Thompson had gotten hurt, but you still had Durant. Like, that changed everything. But Kevin Durant over the years, and I don't think this gets mentioned enough, Kevin Durant over the years has had some very significant injuries in very key spots that have really changed the outlook of his time in Golden State and his time in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I agree. Brooklyn's probably the greatest what if that we've had in our last 10 years, 15 years. It's going to go down as one of the greatest what if teams in basketball because Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden, when fully healthy and at their peak with the players that they had surrounding them, it was just a wrap. It didn't make sense. It felt completely unfair. Everybody in the league felt that way as well. So if those three were all together for 5 years, I don't even know what the East looks like.